Peace be with you. This is part 4, video number 4, as the winding up chapter 1 of my spiritual autobiography, Moses to Muhammad in 60 years. Before my father died, my older son and I spoke with him about religious matters. My older son and I both had reverted to Islam, and my father couldn't understand why. So we talked about it. Naturally, with all the propaganda out there, my father feared for us, as any father would. He knew no Muslims, only the twisted media reports. He felt that he had failed us, that he had not conveyed the message of Judaism well enough. We assured him he did great, and that it's all one story, not a competition, and that Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be upon him, were all on the same page, and they were all sent from and by the same one God, and the central message has always been monotheism. It's not a competition, it's a timeline. It's a development, it's a development of events. Okay? We assured him and showed him both in the Torah and the Quran. The message has been faithful, no disconnect, no contradiction. Before he died, my father wrote a little autobiography, inspired by and with the help of his oldest granddaughter, my sister's daughter. That was a nice thing. That was a beautiful thing. He was just beginning to realize something very profound near the end of his life, and he was mentally and intellectually sharp as a tack until his last breath, as was my mother, which was a real sweet blessing for both of them and us. He recorded his realization that he was just beginning to have, and I am really grateful to Allah for my son's communication with his grandfather, my father, for I lived far away at the time, and I came back close to the time of my father's passing. Here is what my father had to say after being a practicing observant Jew all of his life, sincere devotee of the one God, and as a result of his conversations with us, this is what he put in his autobiography under the chapter called Beliefs. It's part of his legacy now, from almost a century of his religious experience. Quote, back to beliefs. The Quran is a testament started many years after the Torah was conceived by the one and only supreme creator of the entire world. It is a copy for Islam, Muslims, Arabs, people who are guided by forceful forces to believe there is one creator, but who call it him by another name, Allah. It sounds different, but means the same. There are leaders, good and bad. Both have followers. Wars will always be fought for these reasons. Only the future is in his power. This is by Israel Pass from his autobiography, My Life. My father's understanding of Islam was just beginning to bloom, the fulfillment of the chronology of not only the Abrahamic monotheistic religions, but of all monotheistic religions. He had grasped the essence, the central message. He had grasped almost with his last energy the rope of Allah, the understanding that it is all one story. So may Allah accept my father's declaration of faith, even though his understanding was just beginning to bloom and not fully blossom before he was taken from us. My father had grasped the essence, that they all came with the same message. The one who created us all is one, without association to any created beings or things, the only one worthy of our worship. This is the central message of all the prophets and messengers, who the one Creator sent. Peace be upon them all. That ends chapter 1. Now, before I went to chapter 2, I wrote down a little page of axioms and sayings from my parents, my first spiritual teachers. My mother used to say, Sechel. I can hear it ringing in my ears. Sechel, Sechel. S-A-Y-C-H-E-L, Sechel, with a hard C-H. What does it mean? Common sense. Use Sechel. You don't learn it in school. That was my mother. That was one of hers. My father used to say, he said to me once, and I said it to my children, and I'll say it to my grandson too someday, my granddaughter. Mickey Mantle could catch a fly ball in a paper bag. For those who don't know who Mickey Mantle was, he was a great baseball player in the 50s and 60s area when I was growing up. New York Yankees. Great baseball player, Mickey Mantle. How this came about was we lived in Missouri when I was a kid growing up in Little League. And my father couldn't find a left-handed baseball glove for me in Missouri. It's a Bible Belt state, and they got a thing about lefties. Some kind of they got some kind of superstition about left-handedness. And then back in the 50s, in a Bible Belt state, it was really hard to find a left-handed glove for a kid. So he found me this glove that looked like it was run over by a truck. It was the best thing he could find, left-handed. And I said, Dad, this glove sucks. I don't think I used that word then. We didn't use those words when I was little. But I said, this glove's not anywhere near as good as those other kids. How am I going to play a good game? I remember I wasn't even 10 years old, and I remember what he said to me. He said, son, Mickey Mantle could catch a fly ball in a paper